Hello, everyone. Storm, Commissioner of the SADL, and we're back again today with a breakdown of the current standings and some more talk about playoffs. Obviously, we just wrapped up week 8 of the SADL. 2 more weeks left in the regular season, then playoffs. So playoffs are right around the corner. I talked about this a bit, obviously, with my last video, my week 8 review. And we're just going to break down the standings. We're going to talk more playoffs. Obviously, those are for watching, my reviews for watching the games. This will be to actually talk about what the league is looking like right now. As you could probably see, there's a lot more color on our standings chart this week. We had 3 more teams, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that. I dragged my mouse too far down. We had 3 more teams join the ranks of basically out of contention teams who are 100% out of the playoffs at this point. Unfortunately, all 2 and 6 teams got eliminated this week, uh, mostly because of the Dewey Duwats losing. So if you want to get mad at somebody, get mad at Vortex. Him losing to the House of Mouse basically solidified solidified the elimination of all 2 and 6 teams. Basically, the for 2 and 6 teams to stay in contention at least this week, there needed to be 3, 4, and 4 teams remaining. But that win by the House of Mouse unfortunately gave created 2, 5, and 3 teams, which eliminated all the 2 and 6 teams from making the playoffs. Unfortunately, so with that being said, um, we have our first 2 clinchers of the playoff. Yours truly, Baltimore Bullet Punches, taking the 1 seed. First time we've had the 1 seed all season. Taking the 1 seed, and the Dewey Watch suffering their first loss of the season, dropping down to the 2 seed, but still clinching the playoffs because there are now 2, 4, and 4 teams. Basically, last week their playoff scenario was win and in. Or if they lose, they needed 2 of the 4 and 4 teams to lose. They were guaranteed one, or sorry, 4 and 3 teams, should I say? Previous week, last week, week 7, going into week 8, we had 4, 4, and 3 teams. He needed 2 of those teams to lose and become 4 and 4, which happened. If he lost to clinch playoffs, basically the way it was going to happen was one of those teams was going to be 4 and 4 because we had the Washington Wishmakers and the Anchorage Bearticks play each other. Both those teams were 4 and 3, so the result was going to end up with a 4 and 4 team. And if he lost, that would have generated another 5 and 3 team because he played the House of Mouse, who was 4 and 3. So basically, his playoff contention, if he lost, his playoff contention hinged on the match between the Minnesota Glow Kings and the King City Kingdras. And that wind up being a victory for the King City Kingdras. So a bit of not really spoiler there coming out from that match, but it did have an impact because it allowed the Dewey Duwats to clinch the playoffs despite a loss last week. So 2 teams have clinched the playoffs. 3 teams are added. Total 4 teams have been eliminated from playoff contention. So that opens up a big chunk where we now have 8 teams basically contesting for the final 4 slots. Um, so I'm going to break down basically what each team needs to do to make the playoffs. I have this week's, or I guess week 9 matches written down, and I'm able to talk a little bit about that. So we're going to start at the bottom. These 2, 3, and 5 teams, basically, to remain in playoff contention this week, they both need to win. Not only do they both need to win, they need at least one of the 5 and 3 teams to lose this week. If both of the 5 and 3 teams win and advance to 6 and 3, the 3 and 5 teams will be eliminated from the playoffs regardless. If both of those teams win, but one of these teams right here, House of Mouse or the Washington Wishmakers, need to lose this week, and these teams need to win to remain in playoff contention. So they do not control their fate at all. Essentially, it's a very unfortunate for them in that regard. Um, Personally, I know. Looking at the match real quick. Yeah, basically, yeah, that's the state for both of those teams. Um, the Safari Rye Horns, they're 6-2. So yeah, the House of Mouse, the Anchorage Bear Ticks need to win, um, or the King City Kingers need to win. So the King City Kingers have a chance of playing a little bit of spoiler, not playing spoiler, but having an impact on the season based on their game. And the Anchorage Bear Ticks also kind of fighting for their playoff rights. So the 2-4-4 teams are in a position where if they lose, they're in a similar position to the 3-5 teams. The best option for them, obviously, this week is to win. Win will keep them alive no matter what. The only way for them to be eliminated would be if they lose and become 4-5, and similar to the 3-5 teams, both of these teams win. Now, obviously, one of those is a head-to-head match, the Anchorage Bear Ticks versus the House of Mouse. That is a head-to-head that happens this week, and obviously that has huge playoff implications. So, for the Anchorage Bear Ticks in particular, if they lose this week, they go 4-5. They need the Washington Wishmakers to lose because if the House of Mouse wins that match against a head-to-head, they'll advance to 6-3, and the Washington Wishmakers will need to lose if the Anchorage Bear Ticks lose. If the Minnesota Glow Kings lose, theirs is a little more open ended because they just need either the House of Mouse or the Washington Wishmakers to lose. So the Anchorage Bear Ticks control their destiny more than the Minnesota Glow Kings actually because they have a direct impact on their outcome. If they win, they live. They're in. They survive, should I say? Not they're not in, but they survive this week. The Minnesota Glow Kings, obviously, they need to win as well. Actually, no, wait, no, I'm lying. Hold on, correction, real quick. Both the Minnesota Blue Kings and the Anchorage Bear Ticks both control their destiny this week. That's actually wrong. If they both win, that they both survive. I wasn't thinking about the fact that the Minnesota Glow Kings will still have a good record. We'll still have a 5-4 record after this week if they win. So no, both of these teams win, they're good. If they lose, they need at least one of these teams to lose as well. So they do control their own destiny as far as staying in the playoff race. Anchorage Bear Ticks have a little bit more control over that because they will directly impact um, the House of Mouse. And actually, I think if the Anchorage Bear Ticks win and the Minnesota Glow Kings lose, then the Minnesota Glow Kings will stay in playoff contention because it will put the House of Mouse to 5-4. So Anchorage Bear Ticks win um, would actually solidify. So I say both of them need to win. An Anchorage Vertex victory will keep both the Minnesota Glow Kings and the Anchorage Vertex alive this week, as well as keeping both the Turin Trevenants and the Chicago Taurus in. So that's actually a huge game. The Anchorage Vertex versus House of Mouse is a huge game because it potentially holds the fate of three or four playoff teams in its balance. Actually, four teams. If the Anchorage Bear Ticks lose, it is possible for four teams to be eliminated from the playoffs. If they win, it will keep four teams in the playoffs. That's actually crazy. I didn't realize it was that impactful. I knew it was pretty impactful. Just because it was a head to head that also involved two teams that were in playoff contention. Specifically, these two teams right here are kind of like on the bubble. They're the ones that are gatekeeping teams in and out of the playoffs. So actually, this Anchorage Bear Ticks team or match between the House of Mouse is a big match. It's a lot bigger than I originally thought. If they win, it'll keep all of these teams alive, keep them alive, keep the Minnesota Glow Kings alive, regardless if they lose. Um, Regardless if they lose, it'll keep them alive. If both the Turin Trevenants and the Chicago Toros win this week and the Anchorage Bear Ticks win, they will stay alive. So very interesting scenario there. That's a big match, actually a huge match that holds a lot of the playoff fate in hand. So that's the scenario for these 4-4 teams. All the teams that are in the playoffs. So the 5-3 teams have the potential to clinch this week. The only way they clinch though is basically if they win and these two teams lose, they clinch. That's how that works. If a 5-3 team wins this week and both 4-4 teams win, they will 100% clinch. Um, so that's they're not winning in they're win and they need a loss to clinch. And both of the I believe both of these teams are winning in. The New York Munchlax and Safari Rhyhorns are both win and in. Um, so that's the playoff scenarios going into this week. Obviously, differential will play a little bit of a factor. You want to win with a good differential because, for example, Trent Trevor's Chicago Toros, for them to make the playoffs, they will have to tie with they will have to tie with one of these teams. Basically, is how that's going to happen because their record will have to tie, so they'll need a better differential in those cases, or maybe a head to head if it's possible. Although I don't know if there are any head to heads that determine this. I know these two teams have played. I don't remember if these two teams have played. I'm not sure. Not sure off the top of my head. Obviously, I kind of keep those for when I need them. I just look at the match, say, okay, this team played. Okay, that's the head to head. As far as strength of schedule goes, not really important at this point, or right now, should I say. Very interesting though. The two easiest schedules in the league have the top two seeds. And some of the hardest schedules in the league are at the very bottom. We see the hardest schedule is actually the Chicago Toros, jumping up to 36-28 strength of schedule. We do have a 35-29. One of the House of Mouse and the Washington Wishmakers actually two of the only over 500 strength of schedule teams in the playoffs, or in the that are currently in the top six seeds, which is if the league ended today, that'd be the playoffs. Um, and then we see 36-28. That's the hardest strength schedules at this point in the season. And then we see a few more 35-29 strength schedule teams here eliminated from the playoffs. So interesting pattern we see there. Um, so yeah, uh, this Anchorage Beartics match very big this week. Very big this week. A win would help would secure Minnesota Glow Kings keeping alive regardless of the outcome of their match, but it would also potentially keep these two teams alive. Whereas a loss would eliminate these two teams and would also potentially jeopardize the Minnesota Glow Kings, barring the outcome of the Washington Wishmaker match. So that is a huge game that I knew it was impactful because it was a head to head between two teams who are contending for playoffs. Any match that's a head to head between contending teams has a huge impact at this point in the season because it will directly have a positive impact on one team's playoff chances and directly have a negative impact on another team's, which kind of, well, I say doesn't happen. Um, I say it wouldn't happen, but like, for example, some of these matches where you have teams that are out of contention playing other teams, it would negatively impact one team's, but it's not going to positively impact the other team's playoff position, because that other team is out of contention, basically. But some of them would have a vice versa effect, and that shakes up the way the standings work tremendously. So this is the match of the week, 100%. It's just too much at stake with that match. So it's going to be a huge match. I'm definitely marking that off. I think it's between two teams who are getting to playoffs, but has a huge impact on the playoff picture. So that's crazy. That's crazy. Crazy to see that line up that way. As far as like first seed goes, uh, that's a bit of a slippery, I say a slippery slope. Basically some first seed scenarios that would happen. Obviously, uh, differential will play a huge impact. Like basically, any so if I lose this week, for example, 7-2, and both of these teams win, more than likely the New York Munchlax will end up with the first seed in that case because of record. Um, if I were to lose and the Dewey Duats were also to lose, if the Dewey Duats win, they would maintain the first seed. If I lost, if every team loses this week, that basically has no effect on the standings besides maybe differential playing an impact. For example, if I like lost, just say I just lost a 6-0 and the Dewey Duats lost a like a 1-0, then obviously I would have a worse differential in that case. Um, but yeah, that's basically it for the standings. So it's it. That's a lot. It's a lot of impact going on from one match. One singular match basically affects a lot of playoff teams or teams trying to make the playoffs, should I say? I'm gonna look over the kill leaders too real quick. It's kind of getting towards the end of the seasons. Um, so we'll just look at that. Obviously, everybody can, see their individual team if you want. You can stop, or if there's a team that you're interested in, you can just stop and look and see what their kill leaders are. Big week for some kills. We have a very crowded list now. Chin Pao jumps up to 13 kills. Obviously was the kill leader last week, so it jumps up pretty large. Excadrill had a decent week, so it jumps up to 11 now, and we see three Dewey Duats on this list, which is kind of insane. Three Dewey Duats on the kill leaders list, or the league leader list, basically. And then we have Primarina staying with 10. Dragapult with 2 kills this week will jump up to 10. Uh, Maybe I should have just farmed a little bit, got more kills with Dragapult. Um, but obviously it could have had a lot more kills that last week. But nonetheless, it stays with 10. Anamorous picked up, I think, 2 kills this week to get itself to 10, and Zamazenta having a few big weeks. I think over the past three weeks, it's pieced together, or no, 2 weeks, or the past 2 weeks, I think it's pieced together either I think 7 kills. I could be wrong. I think it's pieced together 7 kills, 7 or 6 or 7 kills. So it's having a bit of a late season run to ink itself out to 10 kills. So we have six Pokemon with 10 kills, tying up that third place spot. So kind of heated uh that kill leader list kind of towards the end. Very interesting. We'll see how that works out. Obviously, any as far as just like some other plans for the future of the league, or not to say the future of the league. I don't mean like past this season. I mean kind of in the next few weeks. Next week, obviously, is week 9. We'll have our final week. After our final week, I'm going to create like a it's going to be a Google form. Basically, that's going to have people are just going to vote for their finalists. It's not an actual voting for end of the season's award. It's a finalist for end of season awards. Basically, like you're just voting on, and it's going to be regular season. That's why I'm doing it after week 10. It's not going to include the playoffs. I feel like I don't want to say it's unfair. Obviously, like some because especially because we do 6 seeds, so there's going to be some like pretty good teams that aren't going to make the playoffs. So I don't want their Pokemon who played well this season to be knocked out because their stats or they just don't have the same performance resume for that season. You know what I mean? Like obviously we have like Zamazenta has 10 kills and it's on a 3-5 team, a team that has a lower chance of making the playoffs. I don't want it to be, it did phenomenal, for a decent chunk of the season, had a great, down the lane stretch. I don't want it to be disqualified or have its chances hurt because it didn't make the playoffs, is what I mean. So all the end of the season awards are going to be for the regular season. I might do a playoff awards. We might do that. We might talk about that. That might be something that comes out. But basically after week 10, during the first week of the playoffs, I'm going to have a Google form where people are going to vote for the finalists. I will then accrue all of that to make finalist list, and then probably the next week or later that week put out another form which will then have all of the finalists, and then we will vote the winners from there. Basically to allow, and then we will either and maybe during the playoffs one day, or during while playoffs are going on, we'll have a live stream where we reveal the awards, or maybe postseason, like actually after the end of the season, the championship. So we'll see how that works. Not exactly sure uh, all the planning for that, but I know after season 10, or after week 10, sorry, we will have the finalist form out so people can vote for the finalist. Other than that, I don't really know if there's anything else to talk about as far as like the state of the league goes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anchorage Bearticks versus House of Mouse, match of the week by far. I hope it's a good match too. I hope it's not just like a blowout or some, even like a very hacksy match that just kind of feels disgusting. Sometimes when you watch matches that are hacksy, you're just like, ugh. Like, If that 30% chance doesn't happen, this match is completely different, and it kind of feels a little gross sometimes. I like matches where that are determined by skill, play, good plays, outplaying your opponent, making the right decision in the right moments. Those are my favorite kind of matches, obviously. So we'll see. We'll see how this week shakes up. It's a very this week shook up the league a lot. Um, having some upsets, having some matches that had big playoff implications. Put some people in difficult spots. Had some upsets. Pick'ems got messed up a lot, basically. So, anyways, we'll end it right here. This will be the end of the um, this video, the week 8 standings breakdown, and kind of a look at the playoff picture as we get closer. So, uh, everyone be safe. I guess the next video you'll see from me will be me uploading my week 9 match. So until then, be safe, everybody. Um, yeah, see y'all then.